Hi, thanks for tuning in. This is the US Futures weekly chart analysis for the week ending 3rd of January 2025. This is the first trading week of the new year. First chart is the US dollar index futures. I've got a wider view up at the moment. This is a weekly chart, and you can see here are the previous highs up here. This was the breakdown bar. We've got the highs of the range marked up at this level. And then you can see that the market moved into a consolidation mode through here, trading roughly sideways for an extended period of time. The market's attempting to break out here right now. It's pushed up to the lows of the previous highs. Here's the previous highs, or the range associated with the previous highs. The market has pushed up and has closed just below the lows of the previous high. If I move in a bit closer, you can see where we are now. The market pushed up here, made a half-hearted attempt to break out there, then pulled back, absorbed supply here and in here before pushing higher this week. It was always likely that there would be reduced supply in this little void between the recent highs of the range and the older highs of the range back here. There's always likely to be less supply in there, in this area. And the market was able to push through that with relative ease, considering. I expect that supply will be more prominent up above this level here and may get even stronger as price attempts to move higher. So that'll be a little resistance for the US dollar over the next little bit, I expect. E-mini S&P, this is S&P 500 index futures. You can see that the market has pulled back and recovered this week in the form of a test for supply within the range of this down bar here, which was threatening at the time. You see the very high volume on that down bar. There's the highs of the range there. And this market pulled back sharply on very high volume. And this week, prices tested back within that bar's range, closed positively up near its high. And it appears this market's well placed to make an attempt to push higher when trading conditions are favourable. US Treasury 10-year note futures. Here's the lows of the range. The market was threatening to break down last week. This week attempted to recover, but it was a pretty weak recovery. Price attempted to move higher, but closed back down closer to its low than its high. Volume was still holiday affected, no doubt, but that was a weak attempt to recover, and it suggests this market doesn't have underlying strength at the moment. Copper price futures. Copper price futures continue to trade sideways in a consolidation pattern. Here's the lows of the range. You can see the market is moving sideways here within this bar's range. You've got further potential support below that, all round the $4 level, and the market is really just leaning on that as it trades sideways, potentially absorbing supply and getting stronger for a push higher, but that remains to be seen at this point in time. The market's trading sideways. Gold price futures. Gold price futures are also trading sideways, although with a little more vigour than the copper price futures. Lows of the range down here, highs of the range up here. You can see the market's trading sideways. We suggested last week that the market might attempt to push higher in response to this little narrow spread down bar on very low and holiday affected volume. And that's sort of what's happened this week. There was no great amount of vigour behind the move, but the market did slightly pull back and test for supply there, and then it eased higher in response on a lack of selling pressure. This market continues to look more positive than negative, and it could easily push up to the highs of the range without much effort required. Silver price futures, we're really testing for supply this week. This market's been trading just below the previous highs. The market's been trading sideways in this range in here, like this. The market traded back within this bar's range, the same bar where supply was drawn out in the gold price futures. You can see this market did see the price pull back in a similar fashion, but it's worth noting that this market closed well off at the lows there, so there was some buying support in there, and this week prices pulled back within that bar's range, recovered nicely to close up near its high, and it looks well placed to push higher in response. Like crude price futures, broke above the sideways trading range this week. The market's been trading sideways for some time. There was the highs of the old range, and here are the lows through there. The market's attempting to break out. It's certainly not a confirmed breakout at this point in time, but there's an attempt to break out here. We'll have to wait and see what the response is to see whether it's going to be successful or not. An ongoing push higher or a test of the highs of the old range and then a response higher would be a successful confirmation of a breakout. But that remains to be seen at this point in time. At this point, it's just an attempt to break out. This is the Euro US dollar currency futures, which continued to break down this week, although it was an attempt to break down here. You can see the market pushed well below that breakdown line, but there was a close well off the week's low, so there was some buying support emerge here, and that might see the market attempt to recover next week. We'll see. This market, if you note these levels here, have pushed well below those two previous lows in here, and the market has been kind of attempting to consolidate in here, but it's a bit of an elongated attempt to consolidate. It doesn't look particularly strong. It looks weaker than stronger, all these wider spread bars. A real consolidation will generally have narrow spread down bars, showing you a reluctance to move lower. But this market's elongated. It's looking weaker than stronger. That said, this week saw an attempt to break down, and the close off this week's low suggests there was some buying support emerge. So you'll probably see an attempt to recover. Just how strong that attempt is will probably let us know whether it'll confirm the breakdown in the future. British pound currency futures, in a similar fashion to the euro, but slightly stronger. This market is attempting to break down. The close off the week's low suggests that some buying support did emerge. You can see this market hasn't closed below this low here, which we noted on the euro. The euro's right down here, below these lows even. This market isn't quite as weak as that market. It is trading in a similar fashion, but it's not as weak as the euro. This week did see an attempt to break down, and there is some support expected at this level. The market bounced off that and closed just off the week's low, and suggests the market may attempt to recover next week. Just how strong that attempt is will confirm or not whether this week we'll see a breakdown. Japanese yen currency futures traded sideways this week in consolidation mode, adjacent to this low here, this bar's low, where a little buying support did come in where the market closed off that bar's low. The market's traded in consolidation mode since at that level there. The mid-bar close isn't particularly strong. It does suggest that there is some supply in the market still. The market's having to work to absorb that supply. However, that being said, the market did close as an up bar this week, which is more positive than negative. So this market's not particularly strong, there's no doubt, but it's trying to hang on and not break down any further. And I expect the response next week will be a further sideways bar. Aussie dollar currency futures are also trying to hold on and consolidate adjacent to this 62-cent level. The consolidation is attempting to take place between this bar's close and the support in the background we've seen at the 62-cent level. The market is looking like it's making a pretty good attempt to hold on at this level. There's not much support nearby below. The next real true support level is between 55 and 58 cents. So if the market cannot hold this level, there's not a great deal of previous support between 62 cents and 58 cents. So you can see the market's making a pretty good attempt here, and it's reluctant to break down at this point in time. Bitcoin futures. Bitcoin futures are in consolidation mode, trading sideways in response to the weakness that emerged on this bar here, this very high volume here. Supply was drawn out on that bar for sure 3 weeks ago, and since then the market's traded roughly sideways in an attempt to absorb that supply, consolidate, and if successful, probably make an attempt to move higher in response. Volume was much reduced this week, although it is holiday period, and you will see weeks where trading is reduced, so it can be misleading at times. But at this point in time, you can only say that the market did initially pull back this week below the previous bar's close here and tested for supply. The low volume suggests that there was very little supply in the market, and that allowed the market to float higher in response to close up near its high for the week. So that's a promising response to the recent period of consolidation. And if this is successful, you would expect to see the market at least attempt to push higher in response. And we'll see whether that's successful or not as time goes on. Just back to the US dollar index futures just quickly. And you can see pretty clearly what's happened. There was a half-hearted attempt to break out here. The market pulled back in response. Now prices pushed clearly above the previous highs of the range here. And after a little period of absorption just there, the market pushed higher in response through this void of lower supply here. It was relatively easy going through there. And now the market's poised to make an attempt to push higher, although I do expect that supply will be a little stronger through this zone above, which equates to the old previous highs. So we'll just see how the market goes. Perhaps some of the supply will not remain at that level, and it'll make it easier going than I expect. But at this point in time, you have to anticipate that the supply will be stronger as price moves above this level than it has been going past the 108 level. Okay, thanks for your time. Thanks for tuning in. See ya.